It's vegan recipes with Pat and Emily.
Welcome to my kitchen. Tonight on It's Vegan, I wanted to show you how I make pizza sauce. A friend of mine named Nicole put me on to Mrs. Wage's sauce mixes. This one is the pizza sauce and it is so delicious. I wanted to share it with you and let you know how I put all this together. So of course you're going to need Mrs. Wage's pizza sauce, some tomatoes. The recipe calls for 6 pounds and that ends up coming to about 10 cups of chopped tomatoes. We're going to blanch them. That would mean that we will put them in boiling water for about 3 minutes and then put them in cold water and just peel them. After that, we will be chopping them up. I'll show you those steps. In the meanwhile, you're also going to have to get your canning jars prepared. The recipe says that you will get 5 pints. However, I like a smaller serving. This 1 cup jar will just do a pizza nicely, or this 1/2 cup jar will actually do a really individual personal pizza. The recipe also calls for some sugar. You could probably leave that out, but I think it's really tasty. You'll need to get your bands and your lids ready for that as well. And then once we've got that all mixed up and chopped up in the food processor, I will show you the process. Now the tomato type that I'm using is very juicy tomatoes. I didn't want to strain them and I didn't want to go out and get plum tomatoes. So I'm using 2 cans of tomato paste and I'll be showing you that process as well. My tomatoes in the water about 2 minutes, and as you can see, the skins are starting to split. So I know it's time to put them in the cold water. Okay, my tomatoes are cooling and I have another batch in. Wanted to show you how easily this skin just peels right off. While I'm cutting them, I'm doing it on a plate to save all of the juice. The easiest thing to core them is cut them in half and just take that core out. Even though your processor might blend it up, it might give your sauce a little bitter taste. Then I'll be putting these in the food processor and chopping them up. While I'm peeling and chopping my tomatoes, I am placing my clean jars in some hot water to steam them, sterilize them, and get them hot. I'm also getting my lids hot so that the rubberized part of it will make a really good seal. I have taken all the skins and cores out of the tomatoes, and it's time now to put them in the blender. I want to show you how I chop them up and what consistency I'm looking for. You could also use a food processor. That's about the consistency, and I will pour it in a measuring cup. I need to get 10 cups for my recipe. Again, you can see the consistency. Right now I have 8 cups. I will continue until I have 10. We'll be right back. As our jars are sterilizing, it's time to start making the sauce itself. As you'll see, I have my 2 cans of tomato paste. Those were 6-ounce cans. I have my 5 tablespoons of sugar according to the recipe, and I have Mrs. Wage's pizza sauce mix. Now I'm going to add in some of the tomatoes and incorporate all of those ingredients. As you can see, the tomatoes are mixed in with all of the other ingredients. Now I'll add the remaining tomatoes. I ended up with 8 cups in that measuring cup. And here's another 2 cups that bring it up to the recipe's 10 cups. At this point, put it on the stove, bring it up to a boil, and then let it simmer for 25 minutes. I do stir along that process. The sauce is ready. And as you can see, it's nice and thick. I'm going to try to show you how I fill the jars. And I say try because I'm holding the camera. That could prove interesting. When you're canning, you have to use the sterilized jars, and you want to fill the jar up to a 1/2 inch from the top. The jars are full, and the next step is that you run a knife through each jar to release the air bubbles. After you've released the air bubbles, you want to clean the top of each jar to make sure that there's no sauce there, and you will get a good seal. Next, you place a lid on each jar and then the pan, and you will just tighten this slightly tight, and then you will water bath it. Okay, I am water bathing them. Once they come to a full boil, you will turn the heat down to a simmer and water bath them for 40 minutes. Now, this pot only held 5 jars, so I made a makeshift water bath out of another pot that I had. In the bottom, I put 2 metal trivets because the jars themselves cannot sit flat on the bottom of the pot because it's going to end up cracking them. If you don't have metal trivets, you could always use a tea towel. It's important that you cover them so it keeps the heat in. I have it off right now so that you can see the process. While the jars are in the water bath, I had a little bit of sauce left over, and I'm going to show you how it looks on a pizza. I buy this dough at Walmart, and usually it's not frozen solid, so when I get it home, I cut it into 3 pieces and then just freeze it. And each piece makes about this size of a pizza. This is probably like 8 to 9 inches. And here's a half a cup of the sauce that was left over from canning. Didn't fit in the jar. So look how beautifully that just spreads around. A half a cup is great for this size, and that'll be perfect for my little jars. If you want, you can always add some vegan mozzarella shreds. I'm only putting it on half of the pizza because I actually like my pizza without even cheese, such as a vegan cheese. Next, I'm adding some spinach leaves that were chopped up. And this sauce is so flavorful, you're not even going to have to add like some basil or Italian seasoning to it. These are some onions. I pre-cooked them. I like to roast them. I think that it brings out the flavor really nicely. I'm going to pop this in the oven and I'll be back. Well, the pizza is finished, but the water bath still continues on. It has about 20 more minutes. I will take the jars out when they're done and let you see what they look like. And if you're lucky, you might even hear some pop. I wanted to tell you why I like to can. It's something that my mom always did, and it's one of those things that gives me a real good memory of my mom. And I would like to pass on that wonderful memory that she gave me to my children and to my grandchildren. Those special memories are really very precious. So back to the pizza. It's on a cutting board. I'm cutting it. If you want your pizza to stay really crisp, put it on a cooling rack. And I'm just going to take a tiny piece to let you know how that sauce tastes. Sauce baked out just perfectly. It's very hot, but it's got that perfect pizza flavor that you would like. I'll be back when the jars are out of the water bath. It's been fun canning with you. Wanted to tell you a few other things about canning. Do not push down the lids. Let them cool naturally and seal. There you go. You heard one sealing already. I hope that you will enjoy this and give it a try. God bless you. And again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Here's the bloopers. A friend of mine, Nicole, put me on to Mrs. Wages. Now while I'm peeling and chopping my potatoes, and this is what that final project's going to look like. The pasta sauce is ready.